Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I have the final update for my 2022 eyeshadow palette challenge. I really had to think, what am I filming today? It's holiday time. We're pre-filming a little bit, but this is going to be my last update for my eyeshadow palette challenge that I've been working on all year. So the next video you see like this will be the finale. So I've got 7 palettes to share with you guys today, and most of these I've created a couple of looks with this time, and I'm excited to share it with you guys. So the whole point of this series, if you're new to my channel or you're new to this series on my channel, is at the beginning of the year I challenged myself to use every palette within my collection at least once, and I'm also within that challenge trying to create looks with those palettes that I wouldn't normally. You know, you always have 1 or 2 eyeshadows in every palette that you sort of gravitate towards. So I was really trying to kind of step outside of that box and do something different, but also utilize the products within my collection and not be so focused on bringing in new products when I have so many. I have like 60 or 70 eyeshadow palettes. We'll know at the end. So let's dive straight in, and let's start with the palette that I have on my eyes today. So this is the Milani Gilded Desires palette. I'm trying to show it to you. There we go. Without blinding you. This palette is no longer available, but these gold palettes from Milani were so good. There was like a smoky eye one, there was this one. The quality of these are very good. So this is what I have on my eyes today. It's hard to show you with that gold background. But as you can see, I've got Pan in a couple of shades in this palette. I've had this one, this is one of the older palettes within my collection. But generally when I use this palette, I kind of go into this like light pink category. And I had actually never used the gold, which is surprising in this palette because it is like Gilded Desires. Never used the gold. These pinks are so pretty that anytime I open up this palette, I go straight for those. Look how pretty those are. Those like rosy, this one's like a golden pink. So I always go straight into those. So today when I was doing my makeup, I set my concealer down with this sort of vanilla shade right here. And then I actually went straight into this deeper color called Time to Unwind. And I used that really lightly into my transition and to deepen the outer corner. I did tap in a little bit to this sort of taupey shade here called Crazy for Cocoa, just to kind of bring something else over because this translates quite deep on my skin tone. And then I took this bronze shade called, it's called Olive of My Life, but it translates bronzy to me. So I took that on sort of this section of the eyelid, the outer section of the eyelid, and then I took the gold on this inner section of the eyelid. And then I kind of dibble-dabbled back and forth between the 2 highlight shades to highlight my inner corners. So I like how that turned out. With this palette, I mean, you generally have like berry tones, browns, bronzes, golds, and pinks. So there is kind of I don't want to say it's a one-trick pony, but there's not a ton of variation in terms of tones. So you're either going to get like a berry toned bronzy gold look, or you're going to get like a pinky sort of taupey look. Like that's what you have to work with in here, but definitely different than anything that I've done previously with this palette, and I think it turned out really nice. I do think that these are just so easy to work with, and the like metallic shadows in here are very beautiful compared to like other palettes within my collection. Next, let's talk about the Beaute Violet Sage palette. I got this one fairly recently in a BoxyCharm, like within the last few months. I love this palette. I think that this color story is so beautiful. I think you could wear this like fall time, springtime, summertime, wintertime. Like I really, really love this. So I created a couple of different looks with this one. Of course, I had to create, because this was a new palette in my collection, I didn't feel like I couldn't do my go-to look because I wanted to also test out the formula. So the first look that I did with this was kind of with these sort of pinky colors, of course. You know I had to. I love the pinks. I don't know what to tell you. But I did pair that with kind of a deeper, more vampy lip, as you can see in the photo. And I really love the quality of the Beaute eyeshadow formula. And then of course, the second look I really wanted to dip into these greens. They're just so unique to my collection. There's actually quite a bit of green in today's video in the palettes that I used, but these specific like sagey greens, they're just so different from anything else that I have. So I decided to do just kind of an all matte, very simple look where I took this color called Sage all over the lid, into the crease, just kind of blended it up really softly, and then I created like a wing liner with this deeper color called Juniper, and I really love the way that that turned out. I just thought it was so simple, but really beautiful. Love the color. It kind of like goes with my nails, you know? It's like a whole vibe. So really loved that. Another sort of green leaning palette that I played around with was the Violet Voss All of You Forever palette. Looks like this. I also really love the Violet Voss formula. I have a lot of Violet Voss and a lot of Ace Beaute in my eyeshadow palette collection, I'm realizing with doing this series. So again, I created a couple of different looks with this one, and the first look that I did was a very just like neutral, like warm neutral look, because I'm pretty sure that every time that I have used this eyeshadow palette, I've used these two sort of olivey shimmery colors and like these two kind of mid-toned mauve colors, you know? So I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I had never dipped into this like bronzy golden color called Juicy. So I used some of these like warmer tones, and I used that color on the lid. Really turned out beautiful. Again, just the quality. The quality is so good. I find Violet Voss's formula so easy to work with. And then the second look that I created, I wanted to dip into this green here called Olive Glow. Because I tend to gravitate towards these almost more neutral greens, I wanted to do something a little bit more emerald, and I think that also turned out really pretty. I used, of course, these sort of mid-tone colors in my crease, and I deepened it with one of these ones, I can't remember which one, and then this emerald green all over the lid. I really liked the way that that one turned out as well. And then I've got a couple of palettes here from Hipdot. So this is the Hipdot Cenote palette. This is like a green blue sort of color story, very like ocean vibes. And I realized when I always try to like look at the palette like this and see what colors I haven't actually dipped into yet. And I hadn't done anything with this sort of olive green color in here. So I did a very simple, just like, I'm pretty sure I just put a little bit of this like peach shade in my crease and a little bit of that on the lid and kind of blended it up into my crease. Just a very simple look that day. I wasn't filming or anything like that. So it was just a, you know, something simple. It doesn't always have to be elaborate, right? And I really liked the way that that turned out. I do still need to dip into this shade here called Limestone, this more bronzy shade, but I do kind of, when I pull out this palette, I usually am in the mood for something more blue. So it was nice to do something a little bit more neutral within this palette. And then the second time that I used this palette, I created a little bit more of like a graphic liner type of situation. So I actually faded, I'm trying to remember, I think I faded like these two into my eyeliner. I kind of created my eyeliner out of these like bright colors. You'll be able to see in the photo. It was subtle but colorful, and that was like a really fun way to do a little pop of like green and blue without it being, you know, a full green and blue eyeshadow moment. It was just like a little bit of a subtle thing that it photographed really nicely but was really subtle in person. So I really liked the way that that turned out, and it was nice. I did the same thing with this next palette. Well, with the next couple of palettes, actually, it was nice to sort of like do something really simple and neutral with this, and then the next look I did something a little bit more elaborate. And then this is the Hipdot Zion palette. Looks like this. It's a very like pinky purple leaning palette. And the first look that I created with this one was like very simple, again, like a warm toned look. I think I used like these three shades because I tend to sort of do something a little bit more like berry or maroon toned out of here. I wanted to do something with those like almost more terracotta coppery sort of shades. And then that was like a very simple look that day. Again, I wasn't filming. I was just doing like a simple work eye look. And then the next time that I used this, I did like a whole pinky purple situation with some of these colors that are a little bit more vibrant within the palette. Generally, when I use this palette, I kind of stick to a little bit more of these like more muted ones, but I did a little bit more of a bright like pinky purple smoky outer corner type of situation with that, and I really love the way that that turned out. These palettes are very nice quality. These are the only Hipdot palettes that I've ever used. but I've really heard nothing but good things about their formula. And then we have another Violet Voss palette, and this is the Holy Grail palette, or the HG Pro palette. This is one that I've had in my collection for a very long time. I've talked about this one a lot on this channel. This is one of my go-to wedding eyeshadow palettes when I'm doing makeup on clients. This is like always the palette that I bring when I'm doing weddings because it really has everything that you need. But when I'm doing my own makeup, I kind of stick into like this range, or, you know, I either go very neutral or I go very like pinky. So this time around I did create a look using a little bit more of the warm tones in the palette as like the very simple kind of coppery bronzy type of moment. And then for the second look with this palette, I actually tried my hand at a halo eye, which I haven't done since probably makeup school. Like that's not really a look that any client has ever asked me to do, and it's not one that I generally do on myself. I'm not sure if it's like the most flattering for my face shape or my eye shape, but I really wanted to try it and actually really liked the way that it turned out with these more subtle colors. I think that the times that I've done, the handful of times that I've done a halo eye on myself, I've used brighter, more vibrant colors. So I think I learned in doing that with this palette that if I'm gonna do that technique, I tend to like more of these like more natural glam type of shades. I just think it was more flattering, but it was really pretty, and it was actually not as complicated to do as I had in my mind. So I'm just loving how this is like pushing me out of my comfort zone with a comfort zone eyeshadow palette, you know? That was kind of cool. And then last but not least, I busted out my Tati Beauty Textured Neutrals Volume 1 eyeshadow palette. I love this one. It's so sad that this is not available anymore, and I was really like anxiously awaiting what Volume 2 would be, but it's okay. This now is like a collector's item in my collection. So again, when I use this palette, I very typically kind of stay in this row. I do dabble into the pink row quite a bit. I know, shocking. So this time I really wanted to do something with these more orangey coppery colors because I really hadn't done much in that row at all. So I did create a little bit more of a coppery sort of look. I did take this color into my crease because I didn't want it to look like an orange look. On my skin tone, if I use a color like this in my crease, I have on an orange eyeshadow look at that point. Like you really don't see any of the other colors. So I stuck with Soothe in the crease, but I went in with the Story Metallic, which is the more orangey copper color, and then I took this orange underneath of my eye, and then I did sort of a wing with the dark brown called Ritual. I really liked the way that that turned out, and I was like, you know what, that is a better way for me to use orange eyeshadow. A little bit underneath of the eye and more of a copper on the lid, but sticking more neutral in the crease. I was really happy with the way that that turned out. Again, just forcing me into a little bit different like color combos than I normally would do. I also used this palette quite a bit, but didn't always take photos. And I did create a look one day that was super simple where I just took Soothe all through the crease, and then I took the sequin formula of Soothe and I just packed that onto the lid and did like a lot of mascara that day. And I really liked the way that that turned out too. I think these sequin formulas here, they're basically a matte with a sparkle in them. I think they're a little bit underrated in my collection. Like, I think that was a really pretty way to do sparkle in the daytime. It was just much more subtle. It was really beautiful the way that it turned out. This formula is absolutely stunning. Again, it's just such a shame that this is not available anymore because Tati did a nice job with these eyeshadow palettes. So really enjoyed that one. This really needs to sit like on my vanity. This could very much be like an everyday palette for me. There's a lot that you could just use to kind of ground any eyeshadow look within that palette. So those are all the looks that I created with these eyeshadow palettes. I think I've got, 8 to 10 more eyeshadow palettes that I haven't used yet this year. I've pulled them all out. I've put them on my vanity. It's the 6th of December today, so I have until the end of this month to bang out some looks with the rest of those eyeshadow palettes. So the finale for this series will either come at the end of December or the beginning of January. A lot of my end of the year kind of wrap up videos I normally plan for the end of December, but may get pushed into early January just because this has been such a weird year. I'm a little bit behind, but there's a lot of videos that I still want to film for you guys. So stay tuned for that. I hope you guys like this video. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite look was and if you have any of these eyeshadow palettes at home. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon in another video. Bye.